Hi everyone. We live in a world that teaches us what to think, but rarely how to think. From childhood, we are handed rules, beliefs, and opinions, all packaged neatly and delivered to us with urgency. But no one pauses to say, think for yourself. Feel the weight of a thought before you carry it with you for life. Thinking is not just a mental act, it's a spiritual experience. It's the conversation between your soul and your mind. And when that conversation is filled with truth, honesty, and courage, you begin to live, not just exist. It all begins with a question, not the kind you memorize from textbooks, but the kind that haunts your quiet moments. The ones that ask, why do I believe what I believe? Or what if I'm wrong? Or even, what does this really mean to me? Thinking doesn't begin with knowing. It begins with wondering. You don't have to have the answer. You just need the courage to ask. That's the birthplace of thought. When you start asking the right questions, you pull the curtain back on borrowed beliefs. You start noticing how much of what you think is just what you were told. Your questions begin to crack open the shell of your conditioning, allowing your own light to seep through. It's not rebellion, it's rebirth. Suddenly, life becomes more than instructions. It becomes exploration. Your mind becomes a playground of possibilities, not a prison of opinions. Asking the right questions doesn't mean doubting everything. It means caring enough to seek clarity. It's saying, I won't just accept what's loudest, I'll seek what's truest. It's that soft inner voice saying, maybe there's more to this, and that maybe is powerful. That maybe can lead to a moment that changes everything. When you question with sincerity, you grow with grace. You no longer fear uncertainty because you realize it's a sign of thinking, not weakness. You stop trying to prove you're always right. Instead, you focus on being real. The need to impress fades. The need to understand deepens. And from that space, beautiful thoughts arise. Honest thoughts, humble thoughts, thoughts that touch lives instead of just echoing noise. But asking the right questions also means being okay with not getting answers right away. Thinking is not a microwave process. It's more like planting seeds. The question is the seed, time, patience, reflection. That's the watering. And then one day clarity grows quietly and fully. It hits you in a walk, in a conversation, or in a moment of silence. The answer comes and it feels like you always knew because deep down you did. The question just helped you uncover it. You have to ask questions even when the world calls them dangerous. Especially then. Ask what matters. Ask what hurts. Ask what heals. Ask what helps you breathe easier. And if the answers never come, ask better questions. Don't settle. Your mind is not meant to sit idle. It is meant to search, stretch, imagine, wonder, build. You were born not just to be taught, but to think. In a world of information, thinking is not knowing more, it's asking better. It's digging deeper. It's refusing to be spoon-fed. It's choosing to be awake, aware, and alive to every thought that enters your mind. It's guarding your mental space like it's sacred, because it is. Your thoughts become your choices. Your choices become your life. So ask, then ask again. And don't let anyone make you feel small for wanting to understand. Question with gentleness. Question with strength. Question with curiosity. That's where all great thinking begins. We grow up with layers. Layers of teachings, opinions, labels, expectations. Some of them come from love, some from fear, and some just because that's how things have always been done. We're told who to be, what to believe, how to speak, when to stay silent. And for a while, we carry all those layers like they belong to us. We walk through life not even realizing how heavy they are. We call it tradition. We call it culture. We call it being normal. But underneath all that, there's a voice quiet but persistent, that says, is this truly me? True thinking doesn't begin with adding more. It begins with peeling off. You cannot build your own thoughts until you tear down the borrowed ones. You cannot truly know who you are if everything you think is secondhand. Unlearning is uncomfortable, even painful. It feels like betrayal sometimes, like turning your back on everything you were taught. But it's not betrayal, it's bravery. It's the beginning of becoming. Unlearning doesn't mean rejecting everything. It means examining everything. Holding up every belief and asking, did I choose this? Or was it chosen for me? It means questioning the fear that taught you to stay quiet. It means challenging the shame that told you not to dream too big. It means looking your old thoughts in the face and saying, thank you for getting me this far, but I'm going further now. When you start unlearning, something strange happens. The world feels both bigger and lonelier. Bigger because suddenly anything is possible. Lonelier because the familiar feels foreign. You start seeing cracks in the stories you were told. You realize the people you trusted might have been wrong. Not out of malice, but out of their own limited thinking. You feel the ground shift under you. That's the sign you're waking up. That's a sign you're waking up. But then comes relearning, and that part is beautiful. Relearning is like opening windows in a room that's been closed for years. New air comes in, new light. You start to build thoughts that are rooted in your experience, your truth, your vision. You don't follow the crowd just to feel safe. You don't speak just to be heard. You speak because you mean it. You think because it matters. Relearning is not just about information. It's about transformation. It's not about memorizing facts. It's about recognizing falsehoods. It's about reconnecting with your inner compass and trusting it more than the noise outside. It's about saying, this is what I know now, and I'm open to knowing more. That openness is where all growth begins. Not in certainty, in humility. Sometimes relearning looks like listening to a story you never heard before and realizing it changes everything. Sometimes it's sitting with someone completely different from you and understanding life from their eyes. Sometimes it's reading a sentence and feeling your whole worldview tilt slightly. You begin to see that thinking isn't a destination, it's a journey, and you are allowed to change direction. The more you relearn, the less rigid you become. You stop clinging to being right. You stop needing to win arguments. You care more about understanding than impressing. You care more about peace than pride. You carry thoughts like a gardener carries seeds, with care, with patience, with hope. Unlearning and relearning are not once-in-a-lifetime events. They are lifelong habits. They are daily decisions to choose growth over comfort. Every time you outgrow a thought, you make space for a better one. And in doing so, you become more yourself than you've ever been. Silence is not empty, it's full of answers, waiting to be heard. In the quiet, the mind softens, the heart speaks, and the soul finally has room to stretch. But in today's world, silence is rare. We live in a constant hum of voices, opinions, alerts, news, noise. Every second is filled with something pulling our attention outward. And in all that noise, our thinking becomes reactive, shallow, surface level. We don't reflect, we respond. We don't listen, we scroll. We don't pause, we perform. But the truth is, deep thinking doesn't grow in noise. It grows in silence. Silence is the space where thoughts breathe. When you step away from the chaos, you create a sanctuary for your mind to wander without being yanked back. It's in that stillness that you notice things. The tension in your chest, the questions in your gut, the dreams you've buried under deadline. The silence doesn't judge you, it simply reveals you. It shows you what's real beneath all the distractions. Most people fear silence because it holds a mirror. In that mirror, you see the truth you've been avoiding. You see the guilt, the confusion, the unfinished thoughts. You see how much of your mind is on autopilot, following routines and beliefs without question. But if you can sit with that discomfort, if you can allow the silence to speak, something beautiful begins to unfold. You start thinking not just about what is, but about what could be. Your thoughts gain depth. Your questions become richer. Your answers grow roots. In silence, time changes. It slows down, it stretches, it becomes enough. You stop feeling rush, you stop needing to fill every second. And when you stop rushing, you start noticing. You notice the way a single idea evolves when you give it space. You notice how your emotions shift when you stop interrupting them. You notice how clarity arrives not like a thunderstorm, but like morning light. Slowly, gently, undeniably. Thinking born in silence is different. It's not reactive, not borrowed, not panicked. It's thoughtful, it's yours, it's shaped by stillness, not pressure. When you think in silence, you don't argue with yourself. You listen. You let ideas settle before you speak them. You let emotions soften before you act on them. You become the calm in the storm, not the one swept away by it. The people who change the world, who touch hearts, who move mountains, they all spent time in silence. Not just silence outside, but silence inside. They created space in their minds for vision to grow. They weren't afraid of being alone with their thoughts. They used the quiet to meet their truth face to face, because that's where all great thinking begins. Not in noise, not in applause, but in solitude. Maybe it doesn't matter where the silence comes from. Maybe it's a walk without your phone. Maybe it's a cup of tea with no conversation. Maybe it's 5 minutes of staring out a window. What matters is that you give your mind that pause, that breath, that still moment where it doesn't have to prove anything, perform anything, or process anything. It can just be. And in that being, deeper thinking begins. Silence is not passive, it's powerful. It is the soil where wise thoughts grow. It is the space where creativity dances. It is the bridge between what you know and what you could know if only you made room for it. Thinking in silence makes your words more meaningful, your decisions more intentional, your life more aligned with who you really are underneath it all. Approval is addictive. From the moment we're born, we are taught to seek it through grades, through likes, through claps, through smiles of others that tell us we're doing life right. And without even realizing it, our thoughts start to shape around what others want to hear, not what we truly believe. We become echo chambers, not thinkers. We mold ourselves to fit expectations, not to explore possibility. We think to be accepted, not to be awakened. But independent thinking doesn't grow in the soil of approval. It grows when you're willing to be different, even if it means standing alone. Letting go of approval doesn't mean becoming cold or careless. It means becoming honest. It means being more interested in truth than applause. It means having the courage to say, I see it differently, even when your voice shakes, because true thought is not a performance. It's a process, a journey inward, and that journey demands honesty over harmony. The desire to be liked is deeply human, but when it drives every thought, it becomes a trap. You start censoring your mind before a single word leaves your mouth. You shrink your opinions to fit into the comfort zones of others. You filter out your doubts, your insights, your boldness, just to keep things smooth, but nothing revolutionary ever came from smooth. Real thinking is rough, it's raw, it's disruptive, and it doesn't need validation to exist. When you stop chasing approval, you make space for clarity. Your mind starts working for your growth, not for your image. You stop bending your ideas to match the crowd, and you start building ideas that reflect your soul. You don't say what sounds right, you say what feels right. You don't fear being misunderstood. You welcome it as a sign that your thoughts are finally your own. The truth is, the crowd is often wrong. History proves it. The loudest voice is not always the wisest. The most liked idea is not always the truest. If you anchor your thinking to applause, your thoughts will be blown around like dust in the wind. But if you anchor your thinking to principle, to truth, to reflection, then even in silence you'll stand strong. And in that strength, you find peace. Independent thinking can be lonely. Sometimes people will laugh, sometimes they'll argue, sometimes they'll walk away. But what's lonelier than being surrounded by people who don't even know the real you? When you let go of the need to be approved, you invite the right kind of people, the ones who respect your mind, not just your manners. You don't have to agree with everyone. You just have to be real with yourself. Every thinker who left a mark on the world had to risk being misunderstood. They had to walk through seasons of criticism, confusion, even rejection. But they kept walking because their loyalty was to truth, not to trend. They weren't thinking to impress. They were thinking to understand, to solve, to heal, to change. And they knew that meant letting go of being liked all the time. Your mind is not a billboard. It's a battlefield. You get to choose what ideas you fight for, what thoughts you keep, what noise you silence. Don't trade that power for approval. Don't shrink your thinking just to fit into someone else's comfort zone. Don't bury your insight under fear of rejection. The world doesn't need more agreeable minds. It needs more awakened ones. Your thoughts are not just thoughts. They are reflections of your inner world. They are the quiet messengers of your soul, revealing what you truly feel, believe, and value when no one is watching. What you think in your silence is a mirror of who you are becoming. Every passing thought carries a fingerprint of your inner state. If your thoughts are bitter, there is pain inside. If your thoughts are hopeful, there is still light in you. The world may see your actions, but your thoughts are what build those actions, brick by invisible brick. When you begin to pay attention to your thoughts, you start to understand yourself in a deeper way. Not the version of you that you show to others, but the version that exists behind your eyes. The one that speaks when you're alone. The one that questions quietly. The one that dreams without fear. That inner version of you, that's the one creating your reality. Your thoughts guide your choices, and your choices shape your life. This is not philosophy, it's daily truth. What you think, you become. Many people walk around disconnected from their thoughts. They think on autopilot, recycling opinions, fears, assumptions they never even chose. But when you start to look inward, when you begin to truly notice what's running through your mind, you take back control. You stop letting your past write your future. You stop letting the loudness of the world drown out your own voice. You realize that every single day you are shaping your reality from the inside out. If your thoughts are always full of comparison, your life will feel like a race you're always losing. If your thoughts are full of resentment, your world will feel heavy, even on the brightest days. But if your thoughts are built on purpose, honesty, and quiet strength, your outer life begins to shift without force. You'll see the same situations differently. You'll respond, not react. You'll breathe instead of break. Because your inner world is no longer at war with itself. This is why guarding your mind is sacred. Not in fear, but in love. Protect your thoughts like you would protect a fragile dream. Be careful what you consume, what you listen to, what you repeat to yourself. Words are seeds. And if you keep planting doubt, worry, hate, don't be surprised when your heart grows tired. You cannot live a peaceful life with a storming mind. Changing your thoughts doesn't mean lying to yourself. It means being truthful enough to say, I want better and I believe it's possible. It means replacing shame with responsibility, blame with learning, fear with curiosity. It means seeing your thoughts as tools, not chains. You are not your worst thought. You are the one who observes it, questions it, and decides what to do with it. That's power. That's ownership. It takes discipline to shape your thinking. It's not about repeating positive quotes. It's about digging deep enough to ask, why do I keep thinking this? And then being brave enough to sit with the answer. It's about choosing thoughts that align with the life you want, not the pain you've survived. It's about building a new mental home, brick by brick, story by story. Believe. When you think with awareness, your thoughts become cleaner, clearer, calmer. They guide you instead of trap you. They lift you instead of weigh you down. They become reflections of healing, not hurt. Reflections of strength, not struggle. Reflections of who you truly are, not who the world told you to be. There's a world of difference between reacting and thinking. Reaction is fast. It comes in a flash, triggered by emotion, stress, ego, fear. It doesn't wait, doesn't breathe, doesn't reflect. It just happens. Often loud, often messy, often regretted. It's the slap before the pause, the scream before the understanding, the assumption before the truth. Reaction is the language of survival, not of growth. But thinking is different. It is slow, steady, intentional. It takes a step back. It waits for the dust to settle. It asks questions before choosing answers. In the moments where everything in you wants to react, to fight back, to prove a point, to defend your pride, that's the moment where thinking becomes your superpower. To stop and say, what's really happening here? To ask, is this worth my energy? Or what will this choice cost me later? That pause is where strength lives. Anyone can react. It takes wisdom to respond. Thinking gives you the space between trigger and choice. It gives you the ability to choose your tone, your timing, your words, your silence. It's not weakness, it's control. Not the control of others, but the control of self. Reaction throws fuel on fire. The thinking builds bridges across it. When you think before you act, you don't suppress your emotion. You understand it. You don't deny your anger. You give it direction. So many relationships are destroyed by reaction. So many opportunities missed, moments ruined, peace stolen, all because there was no pause, no thought. Just the rush to say something, to win the argument, to protect the ego. But when you start choosing to think instead of react, you begin to lead your life instead of being led by it. You become the author of your response, not the puppet of your mood. Thinking slows you down in the best way. It teaches you that not everything needs an answer right now. Not every challenge needs a fight. Not every insult needs a reply. It reminds you that you are not a machine. You are a human being with the ability to pause, reflect, and choose differently. That choice is what separates the wise from the impulsive, the grounded from the chaotic. To think instead of react doesn't mean you don't feel deeply. It means you feel deeply and still choose wisely. It means you let your heart have a voice, but not the only vote. It means you consider the impact of your words before you throw them into the world like sharp stones. It means you value peace more than pride, clarity more than chaos, connection more than control. There's nothing soft about thinking. It's not passive. It's powerful. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need to shout to be heard. It listens first. It observes. It reflects. It waits for the right moment to move. And when it does, it moves with precision, not panic. That kind of thinking creates less regret, more understanding, less drama, more growth. The mind that thinks before it acts becomes a home for wisdom. It becomes a place where thoughts are chosen like seeds, not scattered wildly, but planted with care. And from those seeds, better conversations grow, healthier decisions grow, deeper peace grows. Thinking over reacting isn't just a strategy. It's a mindset, a way of living, a quiet revolution in a world that moves too fast.